Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. There's a take two. I should have just probably just changed the title instead of going full on just ending the stream. Well, as I say, good morning, good evening, good afternoon to the people who are here listening on audio, which I will eventually upload on audio. I am playing Minecraft in the background, so if you hear Minecraft music or Minecraft sounds, you know why. For the people who are online and watching on YouTube and seeing this, on video, simply put, I can't afford a full body. I can't afford a VTuber or a PNG tuber full body avatar, so we're gonna have to deal with this for now. So what have I learned in the last 2 weeks or one? I read Spotify Premium, finished Evy Pompouras' book, or ebook, or audiobook, which is titled Becoming Bulletproof. And the sad thing is, I do not fully remember the full premises, but I remember how I felt. I remember feeling encouraged to do better things. And I feel more knowledgeable about something that I didn't think I'd learn, was the US Secret Service. But what are things that come into mind? I haven't wrote them down in notes because most of the time when I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm at work. And I don't really have time to just write down notes on what I think of specific topics. So it's gonna have to bear with my memory, which may be bad. Maybe in due time, I get to fully review and summarize what I think of the book from Evy Pompouras, Becoming Bulletproof. The beginning of the book begins with her experience in 9/11. Her experience while working the US Secret Service that was once stationed at the Twin Towers. She retells her experience being stuck in all of it as the two buildings fell. And it just gave me this sense of, I feel bad for her. Or I lack better terms. I feel bad for the people who had to suffer through that time of day. For the people for the families who will no longer see the person that means to them. Whatever that may be. I feel bad for the Americans who had to witness such a tragedy. After that, there was a whole discussion about... memory is failing me here. There seemed to be whole discussions about what it's like to be resilient. And the one thing that comes to mind right away is the idea of not being a victim. How, in most of the book, it's teaching you how to take control of a situation. And it's showing you, or telling you through her stories and through what she has learned, to filter through the bullshit and actually stand up for yourself, but also stand up for others. There was this, I think it was her book that mentioned this, but there's something that comes to mind every single time I talk about this book. You will still have to take the blame, no matter what. How do I say this? I guess I would summarize it with my words as, you will still have to take the blame even though it is not your fault. I guess the word Jocko would use is taking ownership. some people will use the word accountability, or people will just say take the blame. But if I remember from what I remember from her story is that she was planning an egress and ingress point, or ingress and egress, and the person that she was looking out for, or looking, the person she was in charge of, I can't remember now, failed to plan an ingress and egress point, even though she has commanded, but she will still take the blame. And that, to me, is such a resilience I don't understand. Simply put, it's such resilience that I don't think I would understand. But I'm trying to implement. Even Jocko, taking ownership, extreme ownership. You learn that you still take accountability and ownership of the situation even though it's not your fault. And the one thing I've been learning, implementing these mindsets, is the fact that it just feels very lonely. It's like there's no one to share the burden. And that's the thing, sharing the burden. When it should be you holding accountability, taking ownership of your life. Seeing where you are and still being able to say, I got this. I won't avoid it. I won't sidestep it. I won't deflect it. I'll take it on. And that's admirable. It's admirable. And cool. And she says a similar language. Regarding such a thing. Another thing that comes to mind is what she taught Barbara Bush, the person she was in charge of taking care of. I think that's the phrase. Where she simply demonstrates or tells us to go to the community and get to know it. And what do I mean by that? It's just oversimplification, but when anything happens, get used to knowing how to get to a police station and wherever you live or wherever you're staying. A trauma 1 hospital? And know how to get there through muscle memory, not through Google Maps. Or how to get to a fire station in case of emergency. Without having to rely on Google Maps. So that when anything happens, you know where to go. You don't have to panic and fiddle to the phone. No, you just go straight there without thinking about it. You know how to get there, you practice how to get there. So, boom, there you are. And I find that perspective so cool. I never thought of that. Asking the police themselves, like, if things work, knowing how to get there in case anything happens. Because when worst case scenario comes and you're all panicking, you go down to the level of your training. And if you're not trained to go to emergency areas without having to rely on Google Maps and panicking, well, you have more mental friction to worry about. I might have to re-listen to that section because I find that really eye-opening. And I probably would take notes for the next time. But that's what I do remember with my memory as of now. Another thing I've been trying that I've learned from her book. So to rephrase, I don't live in the US of A. I live in New Zealand. And the one thing that she points out through the people that she's protected is the good qualities. And what does that mean? The resilience. The ability to take criticism from so many people and still say, I will lead this nation. I don't remember much of her book. now, audiobook. What I tend to do with audiobooks is that I re-listen to them so it gets implemented in my brain. But I remember the feeling of feeling like I've learned something new to make me more resilient, to take matters into my hands, that is humble and reasonable. And the one thing of the point that still sticks to me is that the US Secret Service, the people who pass, are not the people who do it on a whim or do it selfishly, it's the people who serve. And the same can be said to, I believe, the military and police officers. Those that make it are actually those who are really willing to serve. Sure, there will be those police officers we all know that eats donuts and is probably a planet themselves. But it gives me... how to stop saying but... It gives me a perspective that the best of the best are those who are very selfless. Serving as a US Secret Service is selfless. You're protecting someone else. You go in between danger. You make yourself big to shield the people. The responsibility of protecting others. Even though these are the people that the others, the most civilians, may dislike, they're still human beings. And I have to remember that. It proves to me that being selfless is such a big thing. But I have to preface myself by saying self-care first before you care for others. Even the military. Take care of yourself first. Take care of yourself first before you take care of others. Or deal with the situation first before you head to them, not during a stressful situation. What can I remember from her ebook, audiobook? There's a thought that came to my mind when I keep listening to her audiobook. This is a woman in a men-dominant field. And I always wondered when it came to her, was she not given the opportunity to be a woman in such a place? Because men and women are different, and I have to remember that and actually accept the reality that we are going to be different. So listening to her with a male perspective is nice. The reason why I'm hesitant to say that is because I still have the manly bias. I'm still a guy. I still have the mindset of a guy. And the message she delivers is not just for men, it's also for women. But I feel like I felt to empathize or sympathize with her struggles of being a woman in a male-dominant field and the struggle she has to go through a woman. She doesn't really mention it. And according to a podcast, which I found Evy Pompouras, I found Evy Pompouras in the Diary of a CEO podcast. And she says she don't care. And through her message, that makes sense. It's not being a victim of circumstance, it's still showing up to it. And proving that you're still worth being there. You're not gonna be dismayed by the environment. You're resilient. You're bulletproof. And that's her message. Since I finished the audiobook recently, there's a voice. There are people who say it should have been renamed as Fearless. And I admire the fact that she refuses to name it as Fearless, but Bulletproof, because she believes that being fearless is impossible. We will still have fear. Not to be fearful, but to respect fear. And I admire that. The next ebook I want to discuss in due time is Ken Honda's Happy Money. I haven't finished it yet, so I got nothing much to say. I should hold myself accountable for actually reading books and actual books. But right now, I seem to be failing that simple fact. Or that simple thing I want to do for myself. And discuss about it. Because I've been learning a lot through books like Psychology of Money and Happy Money. To end off with Evy Pompouras' book, Becoming Bulletproof, as I said, I end up feeling more resilient. It gives me motivation to be resilient. It proves to me that being selfless is such a big act. Not an act, but a big thing. That having such a heart is such a big thing. The people who are able to go above and beyond are those who are selfless. They do so much for others. But the weird thing is, every time I think of that, I always have to remind myself, okay, what is being selfless and being a pushover? And right now, being 23, I don't know. I have yet to figure out properly what that means besides being black and white. Besides saying, it's just this, it's just that. What I say might be correct. But I haven't really discussed with people who have made it through. So I get to have a colorful perspective of what it's like to be someone who became a pushover to being selfless. Finding that balance. Finding their ground. How they can be selfishly selfless. I've yet to figure that out. And I'm not gonna prove that I am in that place. Because I don't think I am. The next thing I want to talk about is the things I've been trying to implement in my life. I've been trying to add a Kaizen philosophy or mentality to my job in retail. I have this little notebook, which ah, damn it. Alright, it's right here. I have this little notebook that I bring to work. Every little thing I write down is in hopes that I have a 1% improvement as I go through my days. I'm not gonna specify, I might specify depending on how I feel, what the things are. But the one thing that I have to remind myself is keeping consistent. There are days where I say to myself to prioritize and execute these 3 things. And then I go to work. I forget to prioritize or even execute those 3 things. I've fully habitualized with one, but I haven't habitualized to the other 2. Actually, technically, I am habitualizing the second one. But the third one, which I would just say, grab tags before you leave the stockroom, I fail to keep doing it. I don't prime myself every time I go to the stockroom and be like, okay, I'm in the stockroom. I'm gonna look to my left, see if the tags are there, and get some ready before I leave the stockroom. Every single time. Well, not every single time. Now and then, I fail to do a simple task of simply getting those tags. And then halfway through my job, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have the tags. Now I have to hassle somebody to grab tags for me or grab it myself. I should habitualize. I should make it a habit. I should remind myself that this is what helps me make my job easier. To have less friction. I have to remember that. Another thing I want to share that I could implement better or improve in my life, at least 1%, is communication. Okay, what do I mean by this? Like, I'm gonna be specific. I'm not a manager. I tried to order one of my coworkers to help me out with this idea. So one has to be in the stock room giving me products, and one has to be outside telling me telling us or me or whoever is going to go out the products that seem to be missing or not on the floor. So I tried to tell him, but failed, to make a list of the items that are on the floor. That's what I said to myself, like make a list of the items on the floor, and I still failed to give the message of to do something similar. And the one discuss we had a debrief afterwards. We debriefed after work. And because I failed to communicate properly that made him understand, I took the matter to my hands and say, hey, is my English becoming English Pro Max? Like, am I using too big of a words to oversimplify my sentence? And upon reflection, I would say, yes. I am saying so little just to get a small point, just to make the sentence shorter, but it's not putting a point across because he simply doesn't know the word. I don't remember exactly what I said, but all I know is that I shortened it to the point. I used big words to actually make it shorter, and he didn't really know what that meant and missed the point. So I wrote down in our debrief for that day to use simple wording. You can't sacrifice length if it means getting the point across. To help him show and tell, just to double check we're on the same page, repeat commands just to make sure we truly are on the same page, and also describe the item if we're still separate to an exact detail of the numbers and letters of the item, the size, and its exact name. So to me, I say I failed that day. I failed to communicate properly. That helps the team. Not all team members are the same, don't get me wrong, so I can really articulate my words to the way I want, and the others will understand to a T. But the other team members are not. How do I say this? The other team member shouldn't have to adjust to my vocabulary just cause. I'm not a leader. I, as their coworker, have to articulate my words that works for both of us. So we both can be on the same page easy and I can communicate with them. And it's not his fault, it's my fault for giving an order that he did not understand. And I believe this. And I'll try and improve on that for the next time. This is something I want to improve 1% in. It's another thing I can talk about. And there are some standards at the job that we just get complacent with. And the problem is, if you really want to learn, some of these standards are not readily available. But some of the extra standards, like how do I say this? There are some standards that are actually easily available as well. And those readily available ones are at the entrance of the office. And I get complacent to not read them, to double check for my information, what I want to improve on, is to double check my intel before work starts. Double check what are the new standards or what has been a standard for a while, and memorize it to a T so it's stuck in my head. So I'm going to work, looking at my phone, and just buggering off, and then not learning about the standards that the company expects. It's to alleviate friction, not to be the best. To alleviate friction helps me at my job and gets the manager off my back. That's what I want, to get them off my back and hope I blend in. That's what I always say, but I end up sometimes overshooting or overcorrecting, as Jocko says. There's a store phone, or like, I think other countries use this too. I think we call it PDTs. There are some little details about the PDTs that the company has that unnecessarily adds friction. I have to sign in every time just to scan specific products or scan a specific part of the store. Like H cages. I have to scan them every single time. But I have to log in. And that's tedious. To go back and forth, sign in every single time. But I said to myself, okay, that's what I had to deal with. How can I add less friction? How do I master what we already have? And improve on that? I don't have an answer, but these are like the Kaizen stuff I want to do, the 1% improvements. The one thing I want to discuss as well is a saying from Jocko. How long does it take to plan something? And he says, 30 minutes more than what you thought. And I really want to emphasize this one as well, because there was one time I was picking up my partner from the city center. I bought some stuff from a tech store and just went up my day, went to my car, watched some reels, and didn't put on Google Maps. I was confident that I knew Auckland. I was comfortable with saying I knew the city. However, that's a problem. That was a problem because I always walked to where she is. I've never driven to where she is. So I just assumed that the roads will lead there. Little did I know that the road heading there is now a bus route. And if you drive in a bus route, you get tickets. So I had to go around. I dragged it out. Because I was complacent, like, I was super confident I didn't pre-plan something as simple as whipping out Google Maps or checking the routes. And the reason why I want to say this, because this thought came to my mind. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And that is a good example of a situation. I just stayed in my car, watched some reels, and then when she was ready, I just drove to her and just got complacent. I didn't plan, just a little bit. And I wasted more time than there needed to be. And that was my fault. We had a discussion about it. We tried to even out the blame. But I said to myself, no, this was my doing. I didn't plan properly. I didn't prevent the situation from happening. And we agreed. There's another thing on my mind. Been listening to a lot of Jocko podcasts. I went back from the beginning, from episode 1 to episode 9 at the moment. It's really insightful. The things I learned from men like him. The sense of ownership, the extreme ownership. It's a perspective I've not heard of before. I've heard of accountability and taking matters into your own hands, but I've never heard it in a structure like extreme ownership. And when I heard of the principles of his book, which I haven't finished, and the things he preached in the podcast, it just made massive sense. And I agree with the statements. I agree with working hard, being selfless, being a selfless leader, doing everything for the team. I believe in that. I've only been to a managerial position once. It was for a pizza place. But that's not enough. I haven't applied this newfound knowledge. I want to practice them. I want to be in an environment that enables me to learn these things. But I don't have long in this country of New Zealand. Because eventually, I'll move out to America. And that's sad to me. New Zealand is slowly becoming my home. But I'll make it work. I'll lose my PC that I'm streaming with right now, but I'll make it work. I'll make it work. I'll lose my bike that I tend to commute with, but I'll make it work. I just have to plan. I just have to be ready. I'm going to take ownership of the situation and communicate with the people who are going to help me. But the more I learn about from the Stuff from Jocko podcast, the idea of ownership, the idea that you have the power to do this, it's like a high. It gives a high that I haven't felt before. The high of being in control. Of being in control because you lost control. And you're taking ownership of it. So it's a perspective I haven't had before. And I want to learn this mindset. And I hope I apply it in the future. Near future. Like tomorrow. Next hour. Next minute. Next week. Next month. My life. I want to apply this philosophy. And the last thing I want to say is being in control of time. I've always hated time, one way or another. Because of time, I lost my relatives. Because of time, I've lost hope. But because of time, I said hello. Because of time, I got to let go. And in due time, I found my partner. I hate time. I'm insecure with time. But that's an insecurity. That's the thing. That's an insecurity. That's a battle I have to win within myself. To win a battle, you must first win the battle within yourself. I'm starting to believe that. I'm trying to let it in my brain. Train it in my noggin. No, but oh Lord, can it be difficult? Can it be difficult? I guess the one thing as well that I want to mention again, again, is the victim mentality. It's like I'm a victim of time. I'm not letting go of, and I'm always blaming time for my inadequacies. It's being a victim, blaming someone else, but not taking ownership. And I believe that's what I need to prove on from here on out. Starting today, starting now, the next minute, next week, next month, and next year. It's my weakness. And I want to improve on that. So I will. There's the Kaizen mentality. There's Muka Demonyo. I hope you have a better morning, a better afternoon, and a better evening. And whoever's listening to this, I hope you do well. This is Muka Demonyo, signing out.